Welcome to Built to Win, the podcast created to help you level up your business game by developing a success mindset that's made for the long run. In this episode, Taking on Goliath, Neora co-CEO Deborah Heiss talks to company founder Jeff Olson about the 7-year David versus Goliath battle that he fought against the FTC. You'll hear how his mindset and business principles helped him stay the course and why he was willing to make the difficult decisions required to protect his company at all costs. Let's have a listen.
Hello, this is Deborah Heiss. Welcome to another edition of the Built to Win podcast. I'm excited today because we're finally going to talk about what the big gargantuan thing that we as a team all took on, and really give you guys a little detail and some insight into some business challenges and some thinking and some experiences that really no one else has ever had. So I think there's a lot to share, and there's a lot to glean from this. And, really, I think the best place to start is for me to bring on Jeff Olson, our founder and CEO here at Neora, to share a lot about what we went through this. It was a journey that we took over 7 years. It was a tough journey. It was one we got through when we're excited, the path we're excited to share. But before we get started doing that, I want to speak with Jeff, who has been a friend of mine for a very long time. We've worked together for about, I guess at this point, 10 years, 11 years, but we've known each other for a lot longer than that. He's a giant in the industry. He's the best-selling author of The Slide Edge. But I really want to talk to him a little bit about his background and what led up to the founding of Neora, the great company that we both work for right now. And the best way to do that is to say, Jeff, tell us about your experience in this wonderful industry we call direct selling.
Yeah, gladly. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to business. I went to business school, got my minor in economics, bachelor's in marketing, and then I was in graduate school in finance when Texas Instruments hired me, a Fortune 100 company, and did very well there, and left there to go down, quote unquote, the entrepreneurial world, and things were going really good for me at that time, and have a lot of success. But I ran into the direct sales world, and I've always been a person who believes people build companies, and companies should build people. And I found the model to just be very exciting. And I engaged in it, and I built some very large organizations around the world, some historical organizations. I became CEO of a China-based company that was building their brand of electronics into North America and around the world. And I became the founder of a TV network. And this is to a certain degree where Deb and I started coming together, because we're both fanatical about personal development, and built a TV network around personal development. It was, producing the top lectures, the New York Times bestsellers, and had all studios and uplink and everything. It was a TV network around personal development. And then through a real big challenge going on in my life, then I won't go about that now, but the whole satellite digital world changed, and I had to kind of parcel that company apart and move it in different directions, but successfully did that. And it was a big challenge. And that's where I've been for in a kind of a semi-retirement. I wrote the book, The Slide Edge, which has had a life of its own. It's been a blessing to watch it do what it's done in the world. And my daughter, Amber, who you've heard from, had come out of business school and done real well, cum laude in business at University of Florida, and was working in the spa world, where she's learning a lot about skincare. And I, through acquaintances that I've had, ran into a product that I thought really would be a good launching product for another direct sales company. And at that moment, and I'll make this quick, I said, I want to do something. I want to set out to do something that hasn't been done. I want to really build the perfect direct sales company. Nobody's perfect, but you can have perfect intentions. And that's what, that's what I look for. Being perfect is impossible, but having perfect intentions isn't impossible. Okay. And so wanted to build a direct sales company that really took me what we call the gotchas out of it, make it something that was easy for the average person to do in alignment with their life. I wanted to be much bigger than just a product and much bigger than a financial opportunity. I wanted to be about the whole being. That was the personal development side. It's kind of where Deb comes from also. And so we sat around and launched a company around 3 words: make people better. those words were embedded into everything about us before we even began designing the company. That was one of the very first things we did. And we came up with our 10 core values, and then we set out to build the company. And the whole thing was, we saw ourselves being visionaries in the space, that we were going to build an e-commerce direct-to-consumer platform that leveraged the direct sales model to expand. But our foundational thing would be products, and we're going to invest significantly in products and really look for products that had a value attached to them. And we want our model to be mainly about customers that were not involved in our business, but we're just in people who are buying products like you would normally if you went to a store or on an e-commerce platform. And so the products had to be able to stand on their own without any business model attached to them. And that's what we set out to do, and launched the company and broke records. We did our first year what nobody had ever done, but we did over our first 4 years. I don't know of another company that's done it, but I would say less than 1/10 of any companies in this 100-year-old industry, thousands of companies, has ever done. And that's who we were. We won a lot of awards, highly recognized. Inc. 500 fastest growing product, Inc. 500 12th fastest growing company. And everything was gold. Everything was beautiful. As we raced towards $500 million in about 4 years. And that's where as a company, and what I love about the company the most is we were impacting people's lives. We do a lot of things where we get together in group settings, whether they're events or whether they're recognition retreats. And I always, and so does our management team, we encourage our people to always stand around and spend quality time with people who are there that you've never known before and you met. And these people, maybe this will be the first time they've kind of stepped out into the entrepreneurial world, or they're going to do something for their family, try and make it so their family have a better car, or maybe a better house, or a better school, or wherever it might be. And talking to those people, maybe 10, 20, max 30% of the conversation would be about our business model, although it was a great business model, broke records, about our products, although they're great products because we built this massive customer base of people who were repetitively buying our products. But they talk about who they'd become in the journey. They talk about, I'm a better parent now, I'm a better spouse now, I'm a better friend now, I'm a better son or daughter now, I'm a better coworker now. And that's what they're grateful for. And so I realized we had really built the company I wanted. And that's who we were. And we were very, very proud of our company, and highly recognized. And we had done what very few companies had done. And we had built legitimate direct-to-consumer e-commerce platform that built a customer base that was outside the business model. And we did it while building a community that really gave people the environment that allowed them to become a better version of themselves. And that's where we were at that time. Yep.
Well, one of the things I love about your personal journey at the start of this company, I was on the sidelines at the start. I joined the company in April of 2016. But one of the things that really attracted me to the company was the personal development aspect, but also that with you personally, you were calling this your last run. I mean, you'd come out of retirement, Jeff, to start something and do it right, to do it the right way, and to apply everything you'd learned, all the good and the bad about direct selling, to a brand new venture with your daughter, and really build a legacy company based off of 30 years of knowledge. And that last run club mentality that we're building this to last, we're building this forever, was certainly coming to fruition. I mean, when I was working at Live Happy, which you and I started after you started Neora, we started Live Happy in 2013. When I was working and building Live Happy adjacent to this, I was watching, really the rocket ship you guys were on, the kudos you were getting in the media. You mentioned, fastest growing companies. These are real accolades, and it's something that I hadn't seen in other companies before. But it's also something. The way you built it was something I hadn't seen before. You'd built it with the idea that everyone who came in contact with the company was going to get some benefit from it, whether it's from our outstanding products, which compete with anything, anywhere. I mean, our products are amazing, to our business opportunity, which if people wanted to sell some products and make a little bit of money, that's great. If they want to build build a team and build, build a much larger organization and grow that and learn leadership and learn personal development, or whether they just wanted to, be exposed to the community that we have and that you'd built. All of that was so impressive to me, to the point that I was enticed back into, into a position. My background was I was with another direct selling company years ago, and then I'd worked for direct selling. I helped found Direct Selling News, the owner of that. I was the original editor in chief. I'd helped found the existing version of Success Magazine. I was the original editor in chief of that. I'd invested full bore into personal development with Live Happy and Jeff. And I never really saw myself back in a direct selling company until I saw what you and your team had built. And, in 2016, when you asked me to come on board, I felt like I was coming on board a ship that had some issues, because everything has issues, but really that was positioned to be a historic company and to truly be worthy of your last run. So, that's where we were sitting. That's where we were sitting in 2016. I think we felt like everything was, I felt like everything was like positioned to where if we made a few tweaks, we just really were growing internationally. We had a lot of plans and a lot of things that we were going to be taking on. And then something happened. And I guess it's time to reveal the big thing, Jeff. What happened?
Well, one day out of the blue, we got served what's called a CID, a civil investigation demand by the FTC, which is the federal government. And it was a very detailed investigation. And we thought, well, what's this all about? But we got together and I said, we have nothing to hide. Matter of fact, we are the model everybody should aspire to. They should be pointing to us as how to do it, not investigating us. Came to find out later on they investigated us because we were so successful. It just came down to that. But we made a decision to give them everything they wanted to research us. And I'll Deb speak to that more, but we gave them 6 million documents, 16 rounds of productions over 3 years, and went back and forth with them. And that was just the beginning of the challenge as we marched into it. And Deb, I'll let you speak to it more now, and then I'll come back.
Yeah. So the Federal Trade Commission, our government, knocked on our door and said, "Hey, we've got some stuff that we want to investigate." And it was really around some product claims that were made not by us, but by some brand partners that got over enthusiastic about a product we'd launched, and we'd really gotten that under control. We'd done the education, we had the compliance. There wasn't really an ongoing problem when they knocked, but we were surprised. And as Jeff just said, we gave them everything they asked for, and we did that because we thought that if we gave them everything they asked for, that they would see that there was nothing to see here. There's no other way to put that. We really thought that, hey, we're just going to show them who we are. We're going to share with them our data. We're going to share with them what we have. All of that we thought would lead to a conversation, maybe some shoring up of policies and procedures, maybe nothing, because we knew that we'd done everything that we were supposed to do. We'd always followed the law. We'd always looked at the case law around this. We'd always paid attention to the Federal Trade Commission guidance, anything that they put out. We'd always taken a look at how are we operating the business, and are we in compliance with what is known by everybody to be what they want you to do, whether it's through a case they've tried or some guidance they've put out or some education or talks. We were always paying attention to that. So we really felt like if we opened up the doors at the kimono, that this would go away. Yes, there'd be some discussion. Yes, there'd be some conversations, but we never really felt like we had anything to lose. Unfortunately, that's not really what happened. What happened, to give you a little bit of background, is there was another company in our industry recently, very recent to this time frame, that had also received a CID, and we found out much later, I think late 2018 to early 2019, late 2018, I believe, they agreed to settle by changing their business model. And the way they changed their business model was, the way our industry works is you get compensated for products you sell. If you build a team of salespeople, you also get compensated for products they sell. Well, the compromise they made was that they would not pay anyone for anything other than their own personal sales. And in our entire discussion with the Federal Trade Commission, that's what they were asking us to do. And our challenge with that, aside from it being wrong, because that's not the law, was that we are a business, we're a company, frankly, an industry built off of a lot of independent salespeople building teams and making their income not only off of the products they personally sell, but also off of the products that other people sell. So if we were to agree to make that change, we would have been taking the businesses out of the hands of people. We'd be taking, really income away from families that had done nothing wrong and had built a business alongside us that their families were dependent upon. And, I know Jeff couldn't stomach that. Amber Olson Rourke couldn't stomach that. I couldn't stomach that. That was just something we could never agree to do. But it turns out through this entire dialogue, that's really all the FTC was going to settle for once they knocked on our door. It didn't matter why they knocked on their door. It became pretty clear after 3 years of negotiations, 2 meetings with them, multiple lawyer discussions, that was something that they were going to require in order for us to settle really something that we felt that we'd done nothing wrong to begin with. So it led us to some interesting decision times. I flew up to Washington, D.C. and met with our attorneys and met with the commissioners. And it became really clear that that's what they were asking for. And so we called Jeff from Washington, and we had some decisions to make. And Jeff, I think this is probably the most unprecedented decision ever made by a company in fighting the FTC in our industry. What did we do?
Well, we made a decision to sue them, and I remember we made that decision and spoke to our great law firm about it. They said, people don't do that, and I said, we need to figure out a way to do that. Let me give you a little bit of history up to that, though. During this investigation time, those 3 years, we had hired Dr. Vandella, an econometrician, which is significantly above economist. And he formerly was the head of the economic bureau of the FTC, highly regarded by them. They look up to him. And we gave him full access to the information, just like we gave the FTC. And he did his independent analysis, and it cost us millions of dollars to get that done. And he went up there and presented it himself to them, who they know him. They've known him for a long time. They know his quality. They know of his work. And he went on to say, none of these things that you're questioning have they done. They're not that. Matter of fact, they're the exact opposite of it. And so you start thinking they're going to go away. And what we found is that's not how they operate. Okay. So it's really interesting because there's a ruling that comes out eventually after 7 years. We have a judge that most people thought was not the right judge to get because she was a Clinton appointee. We may call that consumer advocate type judge. She turned out to be a brilliant judge, very, very thorough, very detailed. But this judge, when she made her ruling, which was a landmark historical ruling, one that's never, nobody's ever done this, gone all the way to the courts with them. When she made the ruling in very, 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 very detailed fashion, everything she ruled on, they knew about back then. And so it's not that they didn't have the information. It's not that we didn't give them the information. It wasn't that we were wrong. We were right. All that was known, but they didn't care. Okay. They just kept applying the pressure. And so we made a decision instead, because what you do with the FTC is they're going to just put so much pressure on you that you'll give in. And they call that guidance. Instead of going to Congress and getting Congress to pass a law that becomes the standard by which companies can operate with safely, they don't do that. They go and do things like they did to the previous company of ours and other companies. There's a history of them. And none of those companies have ever gone all the way to court and gone all the way through court. We're the first one to do that, but we won. None have ever done that because the massive pressure they put on you. You look down the barrel of the federal government, it's very scary. Okay. It's almost like they got a shotgun and cut a pea shooter. And, but we made a decision, knowing that it was a tough decision. And we made a decision to sue them. We wrangled for the next, I think, 6 to 8 months on jurisdiction of the lawsuit. But all this time is costing us money. Okay. But at that point in time, when you sue the federal government and they sue you right back, okay, it now goes from being something you privately were managing amongst your management team for 3 years to the whole world knows about it. And that right there begins this thing called choking. And I'll go into that a little later, but Deb make some comments here. But that's when you start finding out why people don't go down this road, because the techniques that are used, the pressure that is applied on you that's not within the law, is immense. Okay, and it's enough to destroy you as a human, as an individual, and most certainly destroy you as a company. And that's why most people give into it. But we didn't do that, and so you might want to add to that before we go into what that was.
Well, I think it's really important that we. I want to highlight a couple things that you brought up. First of all, was Dr. Vandela's analysis. He basically did a full economic analysis. We presented it to the commissioners. We presented it to the lawyers at the FTC. All of the economic analysis ends up being quoted and utilized when we eventually go to trial, and we do eventually go all the way to trial. But when looking at that data, that's one of the reasons we made the decision to sue the FTC, because it was clear they weren't actually interested in enforcing laws that existed to us. Because if they were, that data would have changed they would have changed directions. It really became more clear that they were focused on getting us to agree to the same thing they'd gotten the other company to agree to. And it really didn't, the data didn't matter. In fact, the economic analysis, one of the economists on Federal Trade Commission even said that the data didn't matter. So I think it's important that people understand that we sued the federal government because we felt like they were trying to change laws through going to court. But we had also to consider, and this was really, really critical, and this was what we spent a lot of time talking about, the impact on our business by making that decision, because it wasn't a, hey, we're going to sue the federal government and no one's going to know about it. It was, the minute we filed that lawsuit, we had to be prepared for whatever was going to happen. We have independent sales force. You have the fear of losing them. You have the rest of the world looking at you. And I know this is particularly hard for you, Jeff, wondering what you did wrong to get to this point, right? And it's a very difficult path to walk. But we still made the decision to sue them. Why were you willing to take that risk?
Well, for me, first of all, I felt like we were right, and I felt we had good intentions. But for us to have given in to what they're asking us to do would have hurt our employees, it would have hurt our distributors, but it would have hurt the entire industry and beyond. Okay, because there's parts of this case that would have affected the real estate industry, the insurance industry. It started a slippery slope, and I just couldn't be a part of agreeing to something that I didn't believe I had done. Okay, and then give in to something just because it was easier to give in than it was to fight. But for me, I knew we had done everything as good as we possibly could. We built it with the best of intentions, and this was kind of like a watershed moment for millions of people. Okay, and if we don't, who does? And I saw what it did to a bunch of good people in these other companies who advocated and who did give in to them, and just wasn't willing to be part of that, and which is not easy. Okay, me personally, I've been successful. It really wasn't about money. It was more about I wanted to build this perfect company, and I could easily take my toys and gone home at that point, but just that didn't feel right because I'd had to live with that the rest of my life, and so now looking back, I'm so very glad we did it. But it was a daunting barrel of a gun to look down, and it only gets worse as you go through the next 4 years. You can only imagine what that pressure feels like as you're heading into trial with all the discovery that goes on, and just the interactions going back and forth. It's a very frustrating thing, but it was just at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. It was that simple.
So you alluded to some of this earlier. It's not just being public. Things happen when you're in a lawsuit with the federal government. Things things that you're not necessarily prepared for. I know that, there's a lot of, when discussions with them prior to either lawsuit being filed or prior to, we really had a lot of discussions with them where they're like, you won't survive a lawsuit with the federal government. You
Right.
as a business won't survive. And we had to discover what that really meant. And I think we thought we knew, but I don't think we really knew. And I'm just, we lost credit card processing. We lost our banking. We had 90 days to replace banking on a business that's doing millions of dollars a month around the world. And we lost all of that with 90-day notice once the lawsuits were filed.
That's not an easy thing to handle, because, we had a tier 1 bank doing, with all of our treasury accounts, with all our merchant processors, and you have 90 days to patch that together. Now, you don't patch that together with other tier 1 banks. You got to go tier 2, 3, 4. So you're getting way higher fees. You're getting way less service. And you have to do that on the fly. That's like changing the engines on an airplane in flight, and we had to do that. My personal bank that I've been with decades and decades and decades, who I've never bounced a check once, threw me out too. Okay. Now, understand this. We haven't been tried. We haven't been convicted. We're just in a lawsuit with the federal government. But that's the kind of pressure that gets put on you. Our suppliers didn't want to give us terms anymore. They don't want to have an accounts receivable, okay, with a company. Some of our management team, a significant part of it, left because they're afraid of it. So now you're losing your team, and you got to galvanize around the team you got. It affects the field. We live in a world of Google. So anybody was looking at our products, looking at our company, Googled it, and the government has ultimate authority. So that's on that. There it is. And so it's those kind of things that you're living under. That even my personal investment banking, they froze my accounts until I was able to get that done. But the hard thing about that, they call it choke point. They choke you so you give in, okay? And they know those things are going to happen. And I actually lost personal friends who thought I did something wrong just because the government said I did something wrong, although they hadn't proven I did anything wrong. And and I didn't blame people, but quite honestly, this is a solo journey. The industry goes away from you. Your friends get kind of separate from you because they don't know if there's not something that you're not telling them. There might be a smoking gun. There might be something that you're just not bringing up. Of course, you're saying you're right. Everybody says you're right. But I was saying, no, we were right. And I must have said it 1,000 times, but it's a lonely journey out there. And you always have the uncertainty of what's going to happen when you eventually get to court. But that's what they do. Is so the words I've learned and dealing with them is that it's choke point is the things that they'll do to you, choke you so that your company gives in, you give in, and guidance, which makes you you agree to things that aren't the law, but now that becomes the guidance for the industry. Okay. And so they call that fencing in. You get this company to do that, this one to do that, and also you've changed the guidance. You didn't change the law. And I saw how that works up close and personal. And that's why you got to have your house in order. If you don't have your house in order, you're gonna be forced to have to give in probably to demands that aren't reasonable because they maybe have some kind of leverage on you. But we didn't have any of that. Okay, I mean, the data was unequivocally the opposite. Okay, in regards. And the other great thing about what we had done as a company, we built it around customers. Vast majority of our volume is just customers who are not in our business model. They're not distributors or anything. And those people they don't pay attention to that. They're just buying the product. Okay. It's your distributors who pay attention to that. Okay. And so one thing we had done, we had built a real strong community. We had a very strong culture. We had a great synergy between our management team and our field. So there was a lot of belief and trust. The other thing we did is we communicated to them very clearly. When we realized that we were going to sue, we actively put together our Q&As for our field, or a Wikipedia, our wiki information that they could go research this whole thing. We had conference calls with the leadership all the way down, explain to them what we're doing, why we're doing it. One of the things I said on that is I'm a patriot. I love this country. I'm a fanatical patriot. But again, we are a country of laws, and that's what this is all about. This is about the law. It's that simple. And I feel very strongly we're on the right side of the law. Okay. I can see why people, if they don't have their house in order, they haven't been doing things previously to have things right, how you would maybe forego that, or you would cave into the pressure, because it is an immense pressure. And the ability to hold your team together is very difficult. I mean, I think out of our 7 executives, 4 left, okay, because they're just afraid. I mean, the government you put in their information, anybody that worked for the company can never work in this industry again. Well, that makes everybody, I'm getting out of here, okay? And so just the unknowing, the uncertainty, the negative shadow that's casted over you, puts you in a very, very difficult position to be, as we say, built to win. But we were, and so you apply massive intellect and money and energy into the lawsuit, and it takes up tons of your time. But you can't just take that tons of time and subtract it from what you're doing running the company. You got to add it to what you're doing to run the company. So your workload, it goes up dramatically. And just running a company that doesn't have an issue like this has its own built-in stresses. We all know that. But when you have this added to it, and you have the uncertainty of it, to keep a team together, and keep people believing that you're right when there's so much, there are people questioning, because most of the people out there are saying you're wrong because they think there is something, okay? And to keep your team together when most people are saying you're wrong, you're right. It took a lot of effort and time, but at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do. We did it, and we got through it.
All right, flash forward. It was when cases were filed November 2019, it was 3 years before we got to trial. It was October of 2022 before we went to trial. Between people finding out about the lawsuits and us going to trial, that's a lot of time to navigate and hold the company together. What did you focus on to keep the company moving forward, keep it growing? What did you personally do to make sure that we stayed on track and continue to provide the fantastic product and opportunity that we have to our brand partners and products to our customers?
One of the biggest things is we kept doing what we always did. The strategy meetings were the same. The communications to the field was the same. The events in the field were the same. The conferences were the same. Everything was the same, and we kept adding things. Okay, so we never took our eye off the ball of growing a company. Company is either if it's growing or it's going down. They don't stay stable. Okay, and so you got to keep growing the company. So one thing I was very proud of us is that we kind of run our company in quarterly cycles as far as getting together, come to strategy, implement them. Now, obviously, there's some things are long term in implementation, but you're constantly plan do reviewing that. And so from the perspective of our employees, they said, wow, these guys are just keeping on going. Okay, I'm okay, I'm safe here. They haven't flinched at all. Come to the field, we just leaned into more what we were. We just really leaned into our community. We really leaned into our culture. We really leaned into, we're doing this for you. We're doing this for your family. I mean, you have a reason why you're in this business. There's a why that's giving you the desire to do the things necessary to be successful here. And whether that is your kids get a different school, you drive a different car, you live in a different place. We're here to defend that, and we don't believe they have a right to take that away. And so there became, hey, I agree. And not everybody. Okay, there's those who ran. There's those who used it against us. Believe me, there's plenty who use it against us. But what you're trying to find is who are your believers? Who's with you? Who's going to go to the foxhole with you? Who in your management team is going to be the foxhole? Who in the field is? So I say we leaned into who we are, took the hits we were going to take, never flinched, always kept building to the future, never ever allowed status quo to be the normal. It had to be built in the future, and not once did we ever act as if we thought we were not going to win this thing. We 100% spoke to our truth, spoke to our beliefs, spoke to the future, and we weren't just always talking about, well, when we get to this lawsuit, we'll do this. We always talk to our future. Where are we going as a company? What are we going to do out there? And so this is a bump in the road that we're going to have to deal with. And when behind the scenes, it was a big bump in the road. Okay, but to everybody else, it was just something we were going through, and that was the biggest thing, because they're looking, they want to know that you know who you are, know where you're going, and know how you're going to get there. Okay, and they're watching you. And if we were just wavered a little bit, or shown fear, or shown doubt, or those kind of things, that would have cascaded to much worse in the field and in the home office. And I'm here to say, the field that's stuck with us is the best field we've ever had. The management and the staff that stayed with us is the best we've ever had. So to a certain degree, although I wouldn't do it this way, but we did our garden. You found out who really is with you, who are the believers, who are willing to go through it with you, and so that bonded us in such a way that we could have never gotten that kind of bond again. The unity we have in our field and the unity we have in our home office now is way stronger than it was before the lawsuit, before the trial. Okay, it's gotten stronger, and it's getting stronger every single day since the rulings come out, because people are starting to realize more and more and more the significance of this ruling and what we had to go through as a team. Because this wasn't me, this wasn't us, it was a group of us. Okay, that we stay together. You start realizing, wow, we did something that it's not a road that was less traveled, it's a road never traveled. And then you start realizing, it makes me feel good to know that not thousands but millions of people's lives were affected in a positive way because of this. Okay, but at the end of the day, what we had to do is stay true to our values, true to our business model, lean into it, build more of it, and constantly project a positive vision, a positive attitude, a positive belief to everybody around us, including our lawyers. Our lawyers, it took them a while. It took about a year to really realize, wow, you guys are believers. And wow, we have looked at all the data and there isn't anything wrong. And oh my gosh, looks like you guys really are going to take us all the way to court. We better start getting our act together. And that's the truth. Okay. and so you're affecting everybody around you. The banks that are taking on you now, you understand they had a meeting. Okay, these guys are in a war with the FTC. They want to do banking with us. What kind of stipulations we put on them? But eventually you start building good relations with them. And all of a sudden we got our merchant processing fees in alignment with where they should be. We got started treated right. We worked on our suppliers. We got our suppliers starting to work with us. But they had to hear from us. It was just absolute conviction in who we are. An absolute conviction of what we stood for, and that we were a company that was good. We were a company that had values and principles and did things right. And we were going to fight this because it was the right thing to do. We were going to win. And that galvanized our suppliers, our banking relationships, our distributors, our lawyers, everything, to be that one team that cohesively was able to withstand this incredible, ridiculous amount of pressure gets put on you, and not only win it, but to a certain degree, we're going to thrive because of it. We'll be a much bigger and better company we've ever been because of it. Because it's almost like the karma, because it's deserving for us right now. So would I want to go through the fight? No. Now we've gone through the fight, I almost kind of look at it as a blessing to a certain degree.
Jeff, I love what you said there, because I am so proud of the team that we put together. And everything that you said about keeping our vision, about where the company's going, and keeping focused on that, and how much stronger our team is really played out. I mean, every month it seems like we're getting another 10-year anniversary of an employee, and for a company that's only 13 years old, we have so much of our team has been here from the beginning. And even the people who started, we had key employees who started in the middle of the challenge. We've been voted one of the best places to work for the last 3 years by our own employees. It has been a great experience to be here, but I honestly think throughout all of this, it was staying focused on the business. We had a couple of our best quarters after the suit was filed. The last 3 years, while it's been out in the public, we've still been able to grow the business. We still launched products. We still brought in new customers. We did everything we could do to manage the business as if this didn't exist. We built our culture. We leaned into the field we had. All of those things are great things that we were able to accomplish because of exactly what you were talking about, keeping our eyes on the business. I want to come back next episode and really talk about the case itself, because we won. And what that means is there were 5 counts against us brought by the FTC. And when we say we won all 5 counts. But there's some business fundamentals that allowed us to win. And I think, I get this question all the time. I think you do too. What did we change? And the reality is we didn't change. We just leaned into more of who we were. We had actually set up the business. You'd set up the business to win this before this case was ever brought. And I think that's really important. We need to discuss why we won. And I'd like to do that on the next episode to put this a little more bite size and not have this run on forever. But I'm excited to talk to you about that. And listeners, we'll be continuing this conversation on our next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was Neora's Jeff Olson and Deborah Heise talking about the company's 7-year battle with the FTC and why they chose to go down the road that no other company has traveled before. Be sure to join us for the next episode when you'll hear what happened after the historic victory and what that has meant to the leadership team. To make sure you don't miss a minute of Built to Win, be sure to go to your favorite place to download podcasts and hit subscribe. And while you're there, please be sure to give us a review to let others know what you think.